Thank you for staying with us. After months of being in detention in the United Kingdom following the allegation of an organ trafficking of a minor, a federal high court in Abuja has given the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission permission to temporarily seize 40 properties that were allegedly traced to Ike Ekweremadu. The trial judge ordered the anti-graft agency to publish the interim forfeiture order in a national daily within 7 days from the date the order was given. The presiding judge, Justice Ike Ekweremadu, gave the order following an ex parte motion filed by the EFCC. The interim forfeiture order includes 10 properties in Enugu, 3 in the United States of America, 2 in United Kingdom, 1 in Lagos, 9 in Dubai, and 15 in the Federal Capital Territory. Well, joining us in the studio is a lawyer, public affairs analyst, Inibehe Effiong. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, reactions have been trailing this decision by the EFCC. The questions about, don't they understand the fact that this man is already facing a case in the United Kingdom and should have been allowed to perhaps defend himself, you know, given all sorts of conversation. What do you make of this decision by the courts and the EFCC's move? Are they being too hasty, as some are saying?
My first impression when I read about this interim forfeiture order that His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Ike Ekweremadu has made was to ponder and wonder indeed whether Senator Ike Ekweremadu is a property developer. Is he into buying and selling of properties? Given that he's a public office holder, is he allowed to engage in such business? Otherwise, what is he doing with 40 properties? And how did he acquire them? With those properties acquired legitimately, if truly these properties belong to him? I was also marveled that these properties are spread across different parts of the country and even abroad.
He's being fair-minded.
Again, you know, there seems to be some federal character in the ownership and location of these properties. But on the legal point, my worry is the timing. Were these properties just recently acquired? When did the EFCC began to investigate the ownership of these properties? Right. Ike Ekweremadu has been in the country for quite a while before he ran into legal troubles with the UK authorities. Why were these properties not targeted before now? These are legitimate questions, but there is also a more fundamental question. Of course, subject to when we are able to see the actual court order and the application file, which is, can the Federal High Court in Abuja make a binding order regarding properties that are located outside the territory of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Right.
That is a very critical question. Because under the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Act, the EFCC Establishment Act, the Anti-Money Laundering Act, and other enabling legislations, and even under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is doubtful whether a court in Nigeria can assume extraterritorial jurisdiction regarding persons or properties that are outside the territory of Nigeria. So those are areas that require some clarification. Because my understanding of the law is that if a crime is committed, presumably, outside Nigeria, whether in terms of money laundering, in terms of acquisition of properties abroad, under the Legal Mutual Assistance Treaty, because I read some of those properties are in the UK. And I can confirm to you that there's a Legal Mutual Assistance Treaty between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. If there is evidence that these properties are proceeds of crime, and there is a way of proving that, I would have thought that the procedure would be to contact maybe the Metropolitan Police or some other authorities in the UK to have those assets confiscated. But whether a court in Nigeria can sit in Nigeria and make an order to forfeit properties.
Is
that
there
are out of
evidence
that.
that, could it be that they are in the process of trying to invoke that?
Well, that would be double
relationship?
jeopardy. Both processes cannot run concurrently.
Right.
A court in Nigeria having made another, I don't think that other will now be
Could they
subject
withdraw
to-
one and pursue the other?
It appears that is now academic because there's a subsisting order of court.
Yes.
But the point I am making is that as a Nigerian, I'm very interested in having Ekweremadu tell us how he acquired 40 properties. But there people have also made the moral argument that, oh, he's already undergoing troubles. You know, why not wait? Why not be empathetic? I believe those who deserve empathy are, you know, these constituents who he has been representing,
Right.
who are entitled to ask him how he came about those properties. Because we always speak about showing empathy to the ruling class. The citizens are also going through, you know, problems with the legal system every day. So the point I am making is that there are some legal questions that requires clarification regarding the propriety of this order. I don't know whether Ike Ekweremadu is specifically identified in the application filed before Justice Nyanko, because what I have read in the media is that the order says EFCC should make publication in the dailies.
Yeah.
Anyone who has interest in this property should come forward. So I don't know whether they proceeded on the premise that these properties have been abandoned under the Process
How
of
did
Crime
they
Act.
trace these properties to Ekweremadu?
Wonderful question, which is why I said by the time we are able to look at the application file, possibly we will be able to answer these questions. But as a Nigerian, I mean, if I have a senator who is a property developer who has acquired 40 properties, I would want to know where.
Don't they have the right? Don't they have the right to have businesses outside lawmaking?
No,
Don't
they
they have
don't.
the right?
Oh, except farming.
Except farming.
Yes, that is what the Code of
That is
Conduct
true.
says.
That is true.
Under the.
But they have the right to acquire.
the fifth schedule to
Maybe
the
it was
Constitution.
farming. Have you investigated these agricultural businesses and investments?
Well, it is also amazing that.
It could be a big farmer like Obasanjo.
Yeah.
It may be a
Even
snake farmer.
Obasanjo is not known to have that many properties.
It may be a snake farmer as
Oh,
well.
we don't know yet.
It may be a snake farmer. But the point I am making is that it is also important for the anti-corruption agencies to be seen to be fair-minded. Why was it not targeted before now? Why did they have
People
to
will
wait
say,
until
does it matter? The point is that it was targeted. The point is that all of them should be targeted.
I agree with you.
They say it
I
doesn't
agree.
matter whether they target him now. I know the story is very painful. You know, he has all of these properties, a very wealthy man and so on, obviously. And then he had problem with his son. Sorry, his daughter. Is it his daughter?
His daughter,
With
yeah.
the issue of a kidney problem and so on.
Yes.
It reminds me of a Dickens novel, Dombey and Son, of a very rich man who always wanted to have a son to take over his property. And then the son, everything, he had a daughter, he had, no, it's this son I want. And then he gets this son from another woman, and then this son becomes sick. And he's trying to find everything to get the son, and the son dies. The son dies after I had to find out that he's in so much debt, just like Ekweremadu, and he loses everything. And he ends up living with the daughter that he didn't even regard as important. You know, that's like a big man, like Abiola's status and so on. So we are seeing the irony as a fiction itself is working its way into reality. We're seeing the irony of a man who has a child, is trying to take care of, is in detention as we speak in the UK. And it is the irony, he's living in how many square meters? A man who has how many square meters for himself is being confined to a little square meter. He can't even live, he can't have his own TV or his own luxury. And yet you have mansions in the US, mansions in London, mansions in Abuja, in the east, southeast, you have all of them. And where do you live now? Maybe 4 by 4 inches. That's the irony.
So again, these are, you know, legitimate questions.
But it's not the only one. But is it not a reflection of our political class and even our
Right.
society
Right.
that you have to keep acquiring?
Mr. Master,
But why is it him?
If you ask me, let us assume that there is really a combative and sincere anti-corruption war in this country, I don't know how many of our public office holders will be spared. I do not know.
Right.
I do not know how many will be paid. But
Is it that he's naive that he put his name there? Because there are so many people you can never trace them.
It to them.
they don't usually acquire these properties directly. They use proxies,
Yeah, but how did they get this
families
one?
and friends. Again, let's be reminded that this is an interim forfeiture order. When the court makes an interim forfeiture order, certain things can happen. That order may be extended. That order can also be set aside. As a matter of fact, there are situations where these orders are made and someone comes forward and says, no, these orders were wrongly made. These properties are not proceeds of crime. I acquired them legitimately. And the court can set aside that order. So
Yes.
it is possible that eventually...
We've had a general under Buhari who was supposed to have acquired properties that nobody could calculate, even if you wanted to be, if you were Chike Obi, you could not even reconcile whatever he earned in his lifetime with the property, and he has been let go. He has even been made ambassador.
So what are the chances of they setting aside, this order that you are speaking about earlier? Them setting it aside, because we haven't seen anyone come forward yet to say that this was acquired, lawfully and all of that. He is in custody, like it was rightly pointed out, and there are questions as to he should be allowed to perhaps defend himself somewhat.
Well, there is also another lawsuit where some persons went to court to have his seat declared vacant.
Yes.
He's being represented in that suit, even in his absence. So my expectation is that the same way he's able to have legal representation in the suit that seeks to have his seat declared vacant on the basis of his absence from duty, that he will also secure legal representation to enter appearance for him if these properties truly belong to him, and then tell the court why this order should not be made permanent, while this property should not be permanently forfeited. But the reservation that some of us have is that EFCC seems to operate from, a certain perspective. I believe if corruption is truly to be fought, Nigerians want to see that fight is not discriminatory. That fight
How is this discriminatory in any sense?
I'm speaking generally. Generally because recall I have said that it does appear that these properties are not new properties. And I'm aware that EFCC has been on Ike Ekweremadu's radar for a while. I think in 2019 or 2018 or so, they even arrested him and targeted him and the then Senate President Saraki, and the matter, and nothing was heard about it anymore. So why is it that now that is it is a legitimate question, because in fighting corruption, perception is also important.
Absolutely.
We must not give the perception that the best time to fight corruption, is situations where the person that is being targeted is not necessarily available. But for me as a Nigerian, that is a secondary question. The primary question is, are these properties his, and did he acquire them legitimately or not? That is the question.
Obasanjo once said that AFCC should get to Gbolo lawyer. Is there a problem? Is there a sense that the activism of EFCC sometimes overwhelms its legal wisdom? That sometimes it goes in the name of activism to go and pursue a matter that it has no really sure legal standing. For instance, I don't know what is going on. In the case of the Bureau de Change, for instance, that they are going after, there are instruments of the law and so on. You are stopping them. How are you going to say that they should not collect money when their job is to collect money and so on and so forth? I don't understand. Does it mean that the EFCC allows its activism to overwhelm its capacity to operate legally?
I don't think it's activism, really. I think it is politics.
It's part of it. I'm trying to use the word activism to...
Because
yes,
I know that under the law, for you to operate a bureau de change, you need some license.
But you guys in law, you call activism, politics is also activism. That's the language you use. I'm using your language, activism. That is your language, yeah? When you guys want to deceive us, you say it's activism. Now you're trying to break it out of our own language, and it's politics.
So because I was also amazed that
yes.
EFCC is going after bureau de change operators and all that. What crime have they committed?
They've committed no crime.
I would like to know.
Yes.
I would like to know. I believe that if anybody is to be held accountable for the way the Naira has lost value, for the way the dollar has, basically overwhelmed our currency,
it's the government.
it is the central bank.
Central bank.
That is where they should go and arrest.
Yes, they should arrest.
That is where they should invite a Emefiele.
They should arrest Emefiele.
They should invite a Emefiele to explain to Nigeria
exactly
how some persons seems to have access to foreign exchange.
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and then others do not.
Yes.
So
And they say it's only
believe
5% of the population, and even less. They have control, have access to foreign exchange. Most people don't. What do they do with foreign exchange? They have their own. Some of them don't even have access to 1,000 naira. Some of them only operate between 200. 200 naira is their own area of specialization. Yeah, 200 naira. And some of them is 50 naira. You know, you just go and when they go and eat. When they go and eat, they come with 350 naira. They eat a ban soup and put one small meat inside. They're okay. And move to the next business. But those of us who see those people carry dollars and so on and so on and so forth, see that they are in a very narrow circle. Yes. Now, coming to Ekweremadu, I am looking at it not just as Ekweremadu, I'm looking at it as a problem of the political class. It is an Oliver Twist syndrome. Can you speak to that?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. For me, we have a problem of primitive accumulation.
Yes.
You see people acquire properties. You see people, you know, with cars that they cannot explain. You see people, you go to... there seems to be this perception that you are not as successful as a Nigerian politician if you don't have houses in Abuja and Lagos and abroad. And these properties that they acquired, one day they will die and leave it behind. So why do you need so much properties?
I met a commissioner in one of the states a few years ago when he was saying that he would love the idea of, you know, getting so rich so that he will have his own long convoy, you know. I was like, what is the convoy got to do with... and we're eating together. And I mean, I said, look, if you have all the convoy, you can't eat more than this egusi soup that we have on this table that we're eating. After that, what is left? What is left? Long convoy, you give yourself wahala, and so on. And but there have been, so many of them love this idea of long convoy. There was one governor who told me that, and this governor said what he missed most about being governor is the fact that, you know, he doesn't have those long convoys anymore to follow him about town and so on. So that Oliver Twist syndrome is such a case that sometimes they don't need the money, but they feel they have to have it. How can we move from that situation to where people can live decent lives?
For me, we have to find a way to hold our leaders accountable. There is also the need for a policy of consequence. And in tackling this, it should not be, as I said, in a discriminatory manner. Let every person who occupies public office know that when you take public funds and misappropriate it or corruptly enrich yourself with what is supposed to be our collective patrimony, there is a price to pay for it. Whether you are a senator, whether you are a House of Assembly member, whether you are a governor. As a matter of fact, in terms of corruption in relative terms, I believe the governors are the worst. Because at the state level, there is little or no accountability. If you look at the lifestyle that governors in Nigeria are living, you know, they do whatever they want. They use public funds the way they like. But nobody asks Nigerian governors to do any question.
Why do you blame the office holders? When somebody is in office, somebody is in office, you expect him to do certain things for you. How do you think he will do it? I had a friend who said there was one minister who was to leave his office, who was to resign or not. And I know of a person who was associated with him. I said, that person should resign. He said, how dare he resign? He will know that everybody in his village must step. We will have to stop him from resigning. He must not resign. The guy was involved in some kind of absurdity in government. But he was supposed to resign, minister, not long ago. And this guy was saying, our people have resolved. He will never resign. He has to remain there. You know how many people he's feeding? You know how many people he's taking care of?
That's it.
So
how do people hold their leaders to account? When they still go, on the one hand, asking for favors, and then nothing is seen to be done, so to speak.
I'm one of those Nigerians who strongly believe that nobody is fighting corruption. EFCC a few days ago came out to say they found billions, that some governors kept billions cash.
They want to use it to pay salaries.
What is stopping you from disclosing their names? There should be a naming and shaming. That EFCC will go on record to say that 3 governors they found that they had
But
cash running into billions.
They have to have the evidence. That's the point.
No, if there is no evidence, why will they make a public statement?
That's why I said that is it politics? I use the word activism.
Why would they not
politics?
come out and tell us who these governors are?
Yes.
And whether these monies have been recovered or not?
Yes.
Because for a governor to steal money to that extent, leave the issue of immunity. The accountant general of the state must have had a role to play. The commissioner for finance must have had a role to play. The permanent secretary government house could have also had a role to play. Why have you invited them for interrogation? When are you going to do that? Every day EFCC comes out to make these statements, and afterwards nothing is heard about it. So the belief of many Nigerians is that EFCC is only fighting corruption politically. I don't even want to talk about ICPC. We don't hear about ICPC anymore.
No, nothing.
We don't hear about Code of Conduct Bureau except when they are needed for sinister purposes.
When they have enemies to hunt down.
When was the last time that we saw a public office holder tried and convicted at the Code of Conduct Tribunal?
You know what?
When was the last time? So the belief is that those who say they are fighting corruption, they are not fighting corruption. It is when cases like EFCC, that Ike Ekweremadu comes up.
I think the politicians have what I call the St. Augustine syndrome. St. Augustine was making a prayer to God. He said, give me chastity, but not yet. You know? I want it, but I don't want it. I don't want this money. I want to be a pure, but just give me that new, that $100,000. Just give me that one first.
But really,
then the next time, I'll pray to God. It's just like the story of the Richard Henry VII, whose mother was always committing murder and killing. He will commit murder, will commit destruction. Then the next thing she will do, she will go to the church and pray. After praying, she now has opportunity to go and commit another murder.
But really, how can Nigerians hold their leaders to account? It's critical.
It's very difficult, especially when you have a tone-deaf leadership, really. Because I read in the news a few days ago that Buhari is asking the National Assembly for 2 billion to buy new cars for the State House. And I say every year in this country, billions are allocated to buy new cars. The ones that we acquired last year, what has happened to them? And they're asking for 6 billion to maintain the villa. And I ask, is Jesus Christ living in Aso Rock? Why do you need 6 billion? What are you doing with 6 billion?
Jesus Christ did not live by Pampoyant. He was looking for food on the tree and he couldn't get it. He had to curse the tree.
Exactly the point.
He said, he said the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. So Jesus Christ couldn't have been living in Aso Rock.
The point I am making is that when a member of the National Assembly sits in the National Assembly and see the president who said he wants to fight corruption comes with certain budgetary proposals, you don't think that they themselves will also want to also make money available for their
It's just like we are trying to exchange money, change the dollar, the Naira. We are trying to redesign it. And we are spending trillions of Naira to go and mop up trillions of Naira. It's just, I don't understand the economy.
So it is leadership recruitment process. Next year we are going to vote for our new leaders across board, from the councillorship to the presidency. Let us be deliberate. Let us be deliberate in the people that we are voting for, including the members of the National Assembly that we often don't talk about enough. We must also look at their lifestyle, look at the characters of the people that want to govern us. Because in all this, if Parliament is independent, if Parliament is effective, the executive arm of government will not be able to do what they are doing. Look at the judiciary. Just a few weeks ago, we were discussing how Supreme Court justices are struggling to have internet. And in the same country, you are hearing that some lawmakers are having 40 houses. 40 houses. When Supreme Court justices do not even have the tools to work with. Go around some of our courts in Nigeria, they do not have stenographers, they don't have the basic tools to work with.
Do they have power? So if they have power, how do you have internet? You have to have power first before you talk of internet.
So we need to really see corruption for what it is and then ensure that we elect the right people into offices. And we must also find a way to insulate EFCC from politics, to give EFCC the independence that it deserves, for them to work efficiently.
Is that possible?
It is possible with the right president.
No, this is because you're in this society. You cannot take when all the eggs are rotting, you cannot put one egg there and say that you are sure that it's going to be protected from the other eggs because it is in an ambience of rottenness. It's not easy. It's not, you know. I don't know how that is possible.
All right. All right. We can only hope as it is, stemming from what he has said. We can only keep hope alive and be deliberate with our selection or election of leaders, like you pointed out. But we must thank you, a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Inibe Hefyong, for your time on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.